There are moments in our history that make you stop, take a breath, and ask yourself, is this who we are? I found myself asking that very question this morning. But before we walk down this road together, I need to ask you for a favor. The story I am about to share is not just news. It is a diagnosis of the American soul right now. It takes resources and courage to speak honestly like this. So do not just listen, be part of this movement. Click that subscribe button right now. And if you believe in what we are doing, if you believe that truth matters, become a member. Support this channel so we can keep shining a light where others will not. Now let us look at the White House. I know that room. I know the weight of the decisions made inside the Oval Office. It is a place where dignity should live. But today we witnessed a scene that defies logic, a scene that turns our political reality upside down. We saw Donald Trump, the man who built his entire movement on fighting the radical left, opening the doors to Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, a man who proudly calls himself a socialist. Just let that sink in for a second. You have the self-proclaimed champion of capitalism sitting by the fireplace with a man who has spent his career critiquing the very foundations of that system. And they were not arguing. They were not debating the future of our economy or the soul of our democracy. No, they were smiling, they were cordial, they were productive. It feels like a fever dream, does it not? We are talking about two men who not long ago were trading insults that would make a schoolyard blush. Mamdani called the president a fascist. Trump has used every name in the book to demean the left. And yet there they were, bonding over what they call populist economics. But you and I know that when principles can be traded so easily for a photo op, something is broken. It leaves you feeling confused, does it not? And you should be, because when words lose their meaning, when fascist and enemy are just labels you can peel off when it is time to make a deal, then we lose our footing. It makes you wonder if any of the anger, any of the rhetoric was ever real to begin with, or was it all just a show? This administration has a way of making the abnormal feel normal. They want you to look at this meeting and think it is just politics as usual. But this is not normal. This is transactional chaos. It is a signal that there is no true north, no moral compass guiding the ship, only the immediate gratification of the deal. And that is dangerous because while they shake hands and smile for the cameras, the American people are left wondering what anyone actually believes in anymore. We deserve leaders who stand by their words. We deserve a government where values are not just bargaining chips. But as we peel back the layers of this strange alliance, we start to see a pattern. This is not just about one meeting. It is about a systematic dismantling of trust. And as we go deeper into this story, you are going to see exactly why this matters to you, to your family, and to the future of this republic. You know, when I was in office, we had disagreements, deep disagreements. That is the nature of democracy. It is messy, it is loud, and sometimes it is frustrating. But underneath all that noise, there was usually a line that people would not cross. There was an understanding that you stood for something specific. And you fought for it because you believed it would make the lives of the American people better. You did not just wake up one morning and decide to become best friends with everything you claimed to oppose just because it was convenient. But look at where we are today. This meeting between Donald Trump and Mayor-elect Mamdani is not just a surprise. It is a betrayal of the very people who put them in power. Think about the folks who went to those rallies. Think about the construction worker in Ohio who voted for this administration because he was told over and over again that socialism was the greatest threat to his way of life. He was told that the radical left wanted to destroy the country he loves. He believed that. He voted on that. And now he watches the leader of his movement open the White House doors to a man who represents everything he was told to fear. It makes you feel like you have been played, does it not? It makes you feel like your vote was not a voice, but just a tool they used to get into the room so they could cut deals for themselves. And on the other side, think about the young student in Brooklyn who knocked on doors for Mamdani. She was told she was fighting against fascism. She was told she was part of a resistance. What does she feel today seeing that handshake? This is what happens when politics becomes a game of celebrity rather than a service to the public. We are seeing a populist alliance that has nothing to do with the people. It is populism without the people. It is two men looking in the mirror and seeing the same thing. an opportunity to grab headlines, to shock the system, and to keep the cameras rolling. They call it economic alignment. But let us be honest with each other. It is opportunism. When you strip away the values, when you strip away the ideology, all you have left is the ego. And a government run on ego is a dangerous thing. It is unstable. The policy could be completely different tomorrow just because the person in charge met someone new who flattered them. We cannot build a future on quicksand. We need a foundation. We need to know that when a leader speaks, the words have weight, that they are not just sales pitches meant to expire the moment the deal is closed. The American people are smart. You see through this. You know that oil and water do not mix unless you shake the bottle hard enough. And even then it does not last. This alliance is artificial. But the damage it does to our trust, that is very real. It teaches our children that standing for something does not matter, that winning is the only virtue, and that cannot be acceptable. I refuse to believe that we have become a nation where principles are just obstacles to be cleared away. We are better than this. But to get back to where we need to be, we have to understand exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. Because if they can align on this, what else are they planning behind closed doors? There is a word that keeps coming to mind as I watch this unfold: disorientation. It is that feeling of losing your bearings, of not knowing which way is up, and right now Washington is disoriented. I have spoken to people who have been in this game for decades, traditional Republicans, establishment Democrats, and for the first time in a long time they are speechless, they are baffled, and they should be, because what we are seeing is not just a maverick move, it is a dismantling of the political order, and not in a way that helps the average family. Think about the traditional conservative, the person who believes in small government, who believes in free enterprise. They look at the White House today and see their leader embracing a man whose platform is built on the idea that capitalism is the problem. The traditional Republican has to be asking, do we stand for anything anymore, or is it just about winning the news cycle? It creates a vacuum of values. When your team does the very thing you spent years fighting against, it shakes your faith in the system. And then look at the other side. Look at the progressives who see Mayor-elect Mamdani as a new hope. They are feeling a deep sense of unease today. They are worried that this meeting normalizes an administration they fundamentally oppose. They are asking if their values are being used as a prop in a political theater. It is a valid fear because when you walk into that Oval Office, you grant legitimacy to the person sitting behind the desk. You signal that business can be done. And when that business is done with someone who has spent years dividing us, it hurts the cause of unity. But here is the real tragedy. While everyone in Washington is confused, while the pundits are trying to figure out the supposed 4D chess move, the American people are left out in the cold. This confusion is a distraction. It is designed to keep you off balance. If you are busy trying to figure out why a socialist and a billionaire populist are getting along, you are not asking the hard questions about your health care. You are not asking why your grocery bill is still too high. You are not asking about the schools in your neighborhood. They want you focused on the spectacle. They want politics to be entertainment, because if it is entertainment, it does not have to be accountable. But governance is not a reality show. It is life and death. It is the difference between a job and unemployment. It is the difference between peace and conflict. And when our leaders treat it like a game of musical chairs where enemies become friends just for the cameras, it disrespects the seriousness of the office. We deserve clarity. We deserve leaders who are transparent about who they are and what they believe. We do not need riddles. We need results. But this shock alliance suggests that the current administration is more interested in the shock than the alliance. They thrive on the chaos, but chaos has a cost. And as we peel back the next layer, I want to talk about the specific economic rhetoric they claim to be bonding over and why that might be the biggest illusion of all. Let us talk about money. Let us talk about the economy. Because the report says these two men, Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani, found common ground on populist economic rhetoric. It sounds sophisticated. It sounds like they cracked the code to help the working man and woman. But look closer at what is actually happening here, because this is where the illusion is strongest, where the danger is most real. When politicians use big words to describe a strange partnership, it is usually to hide a simple truth. They are looking out for themselves. You have the current president who passed tax cuts for some of the wealthiest corporations in history, claiming he is the voice of the forgotten man. And you have a socialist mayor-elect who believes in radical wealth redistribution, nodding along. How does that math work? It does not. It is not a policy strategy. It is a magic trick. They are trying to convince you that the far left and the far right have more in common with each other than they do with the middle. They want you to believe that the system is the enemy and that they are the only two brave enough to break it. But here is the thing about breaking the system. When you break it without a plan to fix it, real people get hurt. The single mother in Detroit working 2 shifts does not need the system broken. She needs it to work. She needs her wages to go up. She needs her health care to be affordable. She does not need a symbolic meeting between 2 massive egos claiming they have reinvented the wheel. This administration is betting that if they confuse you enough with these alliances, you will forget their track record. They are betting that you will forget the deficits, the trade wars that hurt our farmers, and the instability. They are using this populist label as a mask. It allows them to say, look, even the socialists agree with us on some things. It is a cynical ploy to divide the opposition. It is not about feeding the hungry or housing the homeless. It is about fracturing the political landscape so that the current leadership can stay on top of the pile of rubble. And that is what hurts the most. We are seeing the struggles of everyday Americans being used as a bargaining chip in a power play. True populism means listening to the people. It means understanding that a family in rural Kansas and a family in the Bronx want the same basic things: security, opportunity, and a future for their kids. It does not mean shaking hands with your political opposite just to own your critics or shock the media. That is not leading. That is performing. We deserve an economy that is built on solid ground, not on strange, shifting alliances that make no sense on paper. We deserve leaders who do not treat economic policy like a reality TV plot twist. Because while they are patting themselves on the back for being disruptors, the rent is still due, the grocery bill is still high, and the American dream feels further away for too many people. We need to stop applauding the spectacle and start demanding substance. But as we look at how this news is traveling, we have to talk about something else, how this affects the way the rest of the world sees us. You know, when you sit in the White House, you are not just the president of the United States, you are the leader of the free world. Every word you say, every handshake you offer is analyzed in London, in Tokyo, in Berlin, and yes, in Moscow and Beijing. Our allies look to us for steadiness. They look to us for a clear definition of what democracy means. And what did they see yesterday? They saw a spectacle that blurs the lines of everything we claim to stand for. The reports from the Oval Office paint a picture that would be funny if the stakes were not so high. When a reporter asked Mayor-elect Mamdani if he still believed the president was a fascist, a serious, heavy charge, President Trump interrupted. He patted him on the arm. He said, "That is okay. You can just say yes. It is easier than explaining it. I do not mind. I want you to pause and hear that. I do not mind." The President of the United States is telling the world that the term fascist is just a word, just a label, something to be shrugged off with a laugh. This is not just a joke. It is the trivialization of history. It tells the world that in America, political labels are just costumes we wear until the scene changes. Imagine what our friends in Europe are thinking right now. They know the history of fascism. They know the cost of socialism when it goes wrong. And now they see the American president and the mayor-elect of our biggest city representing two opposite extremes, bonding over affordability while treating their deep ideological differences like a misunderstanding at a dinner party. It signals to the world that America has lost its ideological anchor. It signals that we are no longer guided by a coherent set of values, but by the whims of personality. This is what happens when politics becomes purely transactional. If a socialist can be the president's best friend because they both want to lower the price of a bus ticket, then what happens to our foreign policy? What happens to our defense alliances? Does it all just depend on who flatters whom in the moment? That kind of unpredictability makes the world a more dangerous place. Stability comes from knowing where a nation stands. Right now, it does not feel like anyone knows where we stand. We are sending a message that everything is up for sale, even our principles, and that weakens us. It makes it harder to stand up to dictators when our own leaders treat authoritarian labels as punchlines. It makes it harder to advocate for free markets when our leaders are high-fiving over government-controlled grocery stores. We are confusing our friends and emboldening our adversaries, and that confusion is not staying in Washington. It is trickling down into the very heart of our political parties. If the leader of the Republican Party and the rising star of the Democratic Socialists are aligned, where does that leave the rest of us? Where does that leave the Democratic Party? As we move to the next part of this story, we need to talk about the identity crisis this has triggered and why the silence from the establishment is deafening. There is a silence in Washington right now that is louder than any shouting match I've ever heard. It is the silence of the establishment, particularly within my own party, trying to figure out what on earth just happened. You see, political parties are like families. You argue, you have different ways of doing things, but you generally agree on who you are and where you are going. But when the rising star of the progressive left, who just won New York City on a platform of radical change, walks into the White House and high-fives the man the party has spent years fighting, the family dinner gets very quiet. This meeting has thrown the Democratic Party into an identity crisis. And let us be honest, the current administration knows exactly what it is doing. President Trump loves this. He thrives on it. By embracing Mayor-elect Mamdani, he is not just making a new friend, he is driving a wedge right through the heart of the opposition. He is saying to the moderate Democrat, look, even your own people prefer me. It is a tactical move designed to create chaos, to make the other side look disjointed and lost. And it is working. But where does that leave you? Where does that leave the teacher in the suburbs who voted for stability? Where does that leave the nurse who wants a government that focuses on health care? It leaves them feeling politically homeless. It feels like the center has fallen out. We are watching the horseshoe theory come to life in real time, where the far left and the far right bend so far around that they touch, leaving the vast majority of Americans in the middle, wondering who is speaking for them. This is the danger of the current leadership style. It hollows out the middle ground. It forces everyone to the edges. You are either on the disruptor train with Trump and Mamdani, or you are part of the swamp. There is no room for nuance. There is no room for the steady, often boring work of governance. And that is a tragedy because most of the problems we face, fixing our bridges, educating our kids, keeping our streets safe, are not left-wing problems or right-wing problems. They are American problems that require serious people, not odd couple alliances. We are seeing a leadership that is more interested in breaking the chessboard than in playing the game fairly. They want to blow up the traditional lines because in the chaos they can grab more power. It is a power grab disguised as a unity meeting. Real unity is not two people with extreme views deciding to ignore their differences for a photo op. Real unity is hard. It is uncomfortable. It involves compromise, not capitulation. So, as we watch the establishment scramble and the pundits spin in circles, we have to ask, is this the future of American politics? Are we destined to be governed by viral moments rather than values? Refusing that outcome is essential. We should be better than a country run by shock value. But to understand how we got here, we have to look at the engine that drives this entire machine. We have to talk about the media, the cameras, and why this administration creates these reality show storylines in the first place. You have to ask yourself why. Why would a president whose entire brand is built on crushing the radical left invite a socialist mayor into the Oval Office and treat him like a dignitary? The answer is not policy. The answer is not economics. The answer is attention. We are living through an era where the currency of our government is no longer trust. And this administration knows exactly how to play that game. Think about the timeline of your day. You wake up, you check your phone, and you are bombarded. Conflict, outrage, shock. The algorithm feeds you what keeps you looking. President Trump understands this better than perhaps anyone in history. He knows that a boring meeting about infrastructure does not make the evening news, but a meeting with the socialist enemy where they laugh and shake hands, that breaks the internet, that dominates the cycle for days. This is governing by algorithm. They are making decisions based on what will generate the most heat, not what will generate the most light. It is a strategy of distraction. While we are all staring at this bizarre odd couple scene, while we are arguing in the comment sections about whether this is some master strategy or a betrayal, what are we not talking about? We are not talking about the fact that our institutions are being eroded. We are not talking about the quiet dismantling of the safeguards that protect our democracy. They dangle these shiny objects in front of us, these shock alliances, to keep us occupied. It is the magician's trick. Watch the left hand so you do not see what the right hand is doing. And in this case, the right hand is normalizing a kind of political cynicism that is poisonous. They are teaching us to treat our civic duty like we are watching a wrestling match. They want us to tune in to see who turns on whom, who teams up with the unexpected partner. But this is not a scripted drama. These are real lives. When the White House becomes a stage for performance art, the dignity of the office suffers. There is a solemn responsibility that comes with that desk. You are supposed to be the steady hand on the wheel. You are supposed to be the adult in the room. But what we are seeing is a leadership that gets bored with stability. They crave the chaos because the chaos keeps the spotlight on them. It reflects a deep need to be at the center of every conversation, regardless of the cost to the national psyche. And it works, does it not? We are all talking about it, but we have to be smarter than this. We have to recognize when we are being played. We have to realize that this cordial relationship is not a breakthrough in bipartisanship. It is a breakthrough in manipulation. They are laughing, but the joke is on us. They are showing us that they can rewrite the rules of reality whenever they want, and we will sit there and watch. But there is another way. The American people can be tired of the show. You can be ready to change the channel. Ready for leadership that does not need to shock you to get your attention, but earns your respect by doing the hard, quiet work of making your life better. We need to stop rewarding the spectacle. We need to look past the flashbulbs and see the hollowness underneath. And as we move closer to the end of this story, we need to talk about the most dangerous part of all, what this does to the future. What does this teach the next generation of leaders? When I look at my daughters and when I look at the young people across this country, I think about what they are seeing right now. I think about the lessons they are learning from their leaders. You know, we tell our kids that character matters. We tell them that your word is your bond. We tell them that if you believe in something, you stand up for it even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. But what lesson does this meeting between President Trump and Mayor-elect Mamdani teach them? It teaches them that everything is a game. It teaches them that you can call someone a danger to the country on Monday and then laugh with them on Tuesday if it gets you a photo op. It breeds cynicism, and cynicism is a poison to a democracy. When a young person sees the President of the United States treating his own values like they are disposable, that young person starts to think, why should I believe in anything if the people at the top do not? This is the real damage of this administration style. It is not just about the policies of the day. It is about the culture they are creating for tomorrow. We are raising a generation of leaders who might think that the path to power is to be as loud and as shocking as possible, and that integrity is just a weakness. We are showing them that clout is more important than conviction. And that should worry all of us. We need the next generation to be better than us. We need them to be more honest, more principled, more serious about the challenges we face. But right now, the White House is modeling the opposite. They are modeling a politics where the only rule is that there are no rules. They are showing that you can pivot from fighting socialism to bonding with socialists without blinking an eye as long as the cameras are rolling. This is not leadership, it is opportunism, and young people can sense opportunism a mile away. They know when they are being sold a bill of goods. The fear is that they will look at this shock alliance and decide that politics is not worth their time. They will tune out, they will disengage, and that is exactly what the cynics want. They want you to think that it is all a joke, that it is all rigged, so you stay home. But we cannot let that happen. We have to show our children that there is a different way. We have to remind them that there have been leaders in this country on both sides of the aisle who did not treat the presidency like a reality show. We have to remind them that compromise is noble, but selling out your core beliefs for a headline is not. We are at a crossroads. We can continue down this path where everything is a spectacle, where enemies become friends for the sake of a tweet, and where the truth is whatever the president says it is in that moment, or we can demand something better. We can demand dignity. We can demand consistency. But to do that, we have to wake up. We have to stop being entertained by the chaos and start being outraged by the lack of seriousness, because the future is watching us. They are taking notes. And right now, the history we are writing is not one we should want them to read. We have spent some time now looking at this strange picture, a billionaire president and a socialist mayor sitting in the Oval Office rewriting the political playbook for their own gain. We have talked about the confusion, the cynicism, and the message it sends to the world. But now I want to pivot. I want to talk about you, because in all this noise, in all this spectacle, the most important voice is the one that is not being heard. It is easy to feel small when you watch the giants of politics play these games. It is easy to feel like your vote is just a drop in the ocean, or that the system is so rigged that it does not matter what you do. This administration counts on that feeling. They want you to feel overwhelmed. They want you to look at this shock alliance and throw up your hands and say, well, nothing makes sense anymore, so I might as well stop paying attention. But that is the trap. The moment you stop paying attention is the moment they win. The moment you accept that politics is just entertainment is the moment you hand over your power. And let me tell you, you have more power than you realize. This country was not built by men in high towers shaking hands for photo ops. It was built by ordinary people who demanded that their leaders take them seriously. It was built by people who refused to accept that good enough was good enough. We are seeing a failure of imagination in Washington. They think the only way to lead is to divide and distract. But the American people are tired of the circus. You are hungry for substance. You are hungry for a government that does not treat you like an audience member, but like a citizen. You want leaders who do not just bond over rhetoric, but who bond over results. This meeting between Trump and Mamdani is a wake-up call. It is a loud, flashing sign that says our politics has gone off the rails. But the beautiful thing about democracy is that we can steer it back. We do not have to accept this as the new normal. We can demand a politics of decency. We can demand a politics where words mean something. We can support candidates and movements that prioritize the truth over the trend. It starts with recognizing that we deserve better. You deserve a president who respects the office enough to keep it from becoming a revolving door for political stunts. You deserve local leaders who focus on your streets and schools, not on national celebrity. When we lower our standards, they lower their performance. It is time to raise the bar again. And as we head into the final part of this story, I want to leave you with a vision of what that looks like. I want to talk about how we move from this moment of confusion to a moment of clarity, because despite everything we have seen today, despite the frustration and the disbelief, there is still room for hope. This country can still write its course, but it requires us to do something difficult. It requires us to reject the easy cynicism and choose the hard work of hope. Let us bring this home. Here is the choice. We can accept the world as they present it to us, a world where values are traded like stocks, where the only thing that matters is the shock of the new, and where leaders bond over cameras rather than character. We can accept that politics is just a game for the rich and powerful and that we are just spectators, or we can choose a different path. We can choose to believe that our democracy is precious, that it requires care, and that it demands honesty. The meeting we discussed today, this alliance of the absurd, is a test. It is testing our tolerance for cynicism. It is testing whether we still care about the difference between right and wrong, or if we have become too numb to notice. But when you look at this country, you do not just see numbness, you see resilience. You see people working 2 jobs to put food on the table, helping their neighbors, teaching their kids to be kind. You are the real heartbeat of America, not the photo ops in the Oval Office. We have to hold on to that. We have to refuse to let the spectacle distract us from the work. We need to demand leaders who are as serious as the problems we face. We need to reject the noise and tune into the truth. And that is exactly why this conversation matters. The truth needs a megaphone. Now, there is something important to ask of you. This conversation needs to grow. It needs to reach every corner of this country. If you felt something today, if you nodded your head and said, yes, we deserve better, then take action right now. Do not just close this video and move on. Look at that subscribe button. It is right there. It is a small click for you, but it is a giant statement for us. It says you are part of the solution. It says you are tired of the games. If there are 1,000 of you here, we should see 1,000 new subscribers. Let us show them the strength of our numbers. And for those of you who want to go a step further, who want to be the engine behind this movement, become a member. Join this channel. It is the most direct way you can support independent, truthful storytelling. When you become a member, you are not just a viewer, you are a partner. You are helping us keep the lights on, the truth loud. Let us see that membership number climb today, because that tells us you are ready to fight for the soul of this nation. Like this video so the algorithm knows that substance matters more than spectacle. Leave a comment below. Tell us what you think. Tell us your story. Let us bring this conversation out of the shadows. We have a long road ahead of us. The political winds will keep shifting. The alliances will keep changing. But if we stand firm on our values, if we refuse to be cynical, and if we stick together, there is nothing we cannot overcome. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Let us get to work. Thank you for listening. God bless you.